we feeling?
Good. They're just discussing the jury for the day.
Are you going to be
verdict watch? What do you like to do?
There's not much you can do but try to occupy your mind.
How do you feel that it's almost over?
Ready.
anything to say to your supporters?
Thank you. I love that.
What do you say to your supporters?
So that was just moments ago as Karen Reed returned to the courthouse there in Dedham, Massachusetts, because, of course, we are on verdict watch in that courtroom where a jury is now deliberating the fate of defendant Karen Reed.
And prosecutors have accused the former adjunct professor of striking her boyfriend John O'Keefe with her SUV while driving in reverse and then leaving him to die outside a home in Canton, Massachusetts.
Of course, Reed insists that she is innocent and has pleaded not guilty to multiple charges, including second-degree murder. She claims to be the target of a vast police cover-up. All right, so here we are. We're waiting to find out what's exactly going on in the courtroom. As I just mentioned, there you see Karen Reed. That's just moments ago as she was returning to the courtroom. And you see Matt there following behind, asking her questions. We're waiting to find out why she was called back to the courtroom. We can speculate, but we won't do that right now. The jury clock is still going at 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 20 seconds.
Although I will say, we've talked about it would be very unusual given the amount of evidence, the length of the jury instructions, the magnitude of this case, how long they've been in trial, that this is a verdict. We don't anticipate at this point it's going to be a verdict. Now, we just need to comment that the jurors are not expected to deliberate over the weekend. They are not sequestered. These are things the court has to decide, has already decided. So that does mean once they go home for the day that they would then come back on Monday to continue their deliberations.
Yeah, and it's be perfectly understandable if they decided that they didn't want to continue today because they weren't going to come to a conclusion today. I think that's pretty clear. And they said, hey, you know what? We'll go home today. It's been a long day. We heard all these closing arguments. We'll go home, come back with fresh minds on Monday morning.
Yeah, they've got to be exhausted. What was it, 31 days? I don't want to misquote. I don't have that note in front of me, but I believe it was 31 days of testimony that they heard. That's a very long trial for any juror, and they're exhausted. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, Michael, was I felt like watching Karen on her shoulders and appeared differently than she did through the trial.
No question about it. Today, well, not today, but ultimately either Monday or Tuesday going into next week, her life is going to change.
Yeah.
It's either going to change in a good way because this will be off her shoulders with a not guilty verdict, or she'll be found guilty of something and find herself going to prison on some level.
Or it could be a hung jury, and good Lord, that means it's still out there.
Well,
and we'd have to figure out what happens.
Do you think at this point, after 2 tries, if there's another hung jury, this prosecution will go after her again?
I don't know. Let's find out from our guest. Joining us now, defense attorney, former head prosecutor Bob Bianchi, and former head prosecutor. It begs the question, if there is a hung jury on any of the 3 charges, and then lessers too, would you try this case again?
Oh, wow. First of all, happy Friday, guys. Sorry, my studio fell apart for some reason, so this is what you get. But that's a great question. I used to look at things differently. One, the evidence in this case, to me, even if I believe the person is guilty, was so convoluted, confusing. We had so many issues with the way the investigation took place. If I never was in this position, but 2 cases that a jury could not come to a conclusion of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, I personally, on a case like this, would not go forward a 3rd time. I know that I would share a minority view here, and that another school of thought would be, if I believe she's guilty, try again until you get the conviction. And that's valid too. It's just that for me personally, I've got so many problems with the way this case was investigated that I'm queasy about it, just generally speaking.
You know, and folks, we're just standing by to find out what's going on. As you saw there, that was just moments ago when Karen Reed was returning to the courtroom. As soon as we find out what's going on or have an opportunity to take you there, we will do that. Bob, one of the other considerations as a former prosecutor, you tell me, is the amount of money that a county or whatever is willing to spend on a case. What we know is that a lot of money, maybe close to $500,000 was spent just on experts this go around by prosecutors. Does that factor into a decision to say, okay, we're going to go back and do this again?
No, I don't think it factors in at all. You know, we're government officials. It's funny money. It's taxpayer money, right? So that's one of the advantages a prosecutor has, and it's a tremendous advantage. Not only do you have an incredible amount of power, an incredible amount of discretion that is in the hands of a good prosecutor, a good thing, in the hands of a bad prosecutor, not a good thing, but you do have, quote unquote, unlimited. Now, they're not unlimited resources. But again, if I really believe the person was guilty of an offense, if it took me 3 times and $1.5 million, $2 million, in order to bring justice to the victim and justice to the victim's family, there really would be no cost. That would not enter my lexicon, my equation at all, in the least.
Fair enough. Judge, do you think, now, as a, you know, I'm more sort of a criminal defense attorney, so, you know, when we start talking about 3 times, 4 times, 5 times retrying someone, I wonder if you feel like maybe there should be some limit as to how many times someone could be retried.
I think so personally, but there is a way to accomplish that limit. The judge, we looked this up together, and the law in the state has the ability to dismiss either with or without prejudice, meaning it can be brought again or not, new charges. So the reality is the judge has a say in it, and she may step in and say, no, thank you, we're not doing it again. Bob Bianchi, I don't know if you had a chance to watch closing arguments. Of course, the defense went first, followed by the Commonwealth. And if you want to watch great attorneys, to me, you watch this trial because they're very good attorneys. They know what they're doing. And I felt like the Commonwealth really stuck to the data, the science. They really said, listen, the defense experts didn't have any science. And the defense leaned into Proctor and the investigation and some of the emotional pieces of it I thought that they brought out. How much does this affect a jury if it does the closing arguments?
I think closing arguments affect the jury tremendously. I believe opening statements are more persuasive in my mind, however, than closings. But closings, look, when you try a case, at least when I train people on how to try a case, whether you're a defense lawyer or prosecutor, I say you need to go to what you want to say in summation. Because, as you know, you can only comment on the evidence that was adduced during the course of the trial and reasonable inferences drawn from that evidence. Once I know, like I'm preparing a homicide case right now. Now, I know what I want to be able to say to that jury. I map that out first, and then I back my way into the witnesses and the evidence that I'm going to need to make sure that, one, I have it, 2, that it's admissible. You got to make sure that the light of the evidence will go into the jury so the jury can listen to it. And then 3rd, so I'd be able to go in my summation and say the things I want to say because I've already built my case from the summation first. So look, I mean, emotions are important. The defense only has to play to one juror. Of course, they want an outright acquittal, but they want to be able to get to that one person. So they're going to be more in that emotional space. It sounds like I didn't see the openings here, where the prosecutors always want to be more methodical. The prosecutors don't want to work so much on emotion. They want to work on hardcore, solid evidence that's going to convince that jury beyond a reasonable doubt in a dispassionate way. Last point. Once a jury feels that the prosecutor is overly invested emotionally in the case, then there could be something where the jurors say, I don't know whether I trust this prosecutor. That's why prosecutor summations and defense are always so different.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the prosecution in this case took that methodical approach, the more scientific approach this time. All right, Bob, stand by. Folks, we're standing by to figure out what exactly is going on in the courtroom. We showed you about 10 minutes ago, Karen Reed returned to the courthouse. So what we'll do here, we'll take a break. And coming up, Court TV's Matt Johnson will join us live from outside that courthouse with all the latest. So keep it here on Court TV.
So, do you think we got a verdict already? Or do you think they're going home for the weekend? They are not deliberating over the weekend. And it's 3:30 Central Standard Time where I am, so it's 4:30 there. They might just be going home. I really, I really wouldn't doubt it though if they had a verdict and they're just tired and want to be done by Monday morning. So I guess in about 5 minutes, we'll see, won't we? I wonder if they're having a big prayer meeting before they go in. I know I would be. What a scary thought, not knowing if you could walk out of that room. We will see soon. Unless I had a question already, I guess could be, but they've been deliberating about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. It'd be nice to have it done with this week, but I kind of doubt it. Not so sure. Let me go see what Court TV is saying, like live. Dave, we don't know if we have a verdict. She's back in the courthouse, though. We don't know if they're going home, if they have a question. But we'll find out in just a couple minutes because they just now went on a break. So we will see. I hope so. I hope to have this done with today. But we will see. Oh, Dave, you could hear me when I said that? Woo, congratulations. Just kidding.
We saw Karen Reed entering. Now we're going to go back into the courtroom in Dedham, Massachusetts to see what happens. The jury's been deliberating for an hour and 47 minutes approximately. So we're going to see.
Jurors, I understand you want to go home. It's been a long day for us. We appreciate everything you've done today. I do have to tell you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Do not talk to anyone, and that includes each other. So when you walk out the deliberation door, you have to stop talking about this case. Even when you come into the courtroom, don't mind that you remember that. And you cannot, even if you get here before you're called into court on Monday, you can't discuss the case then either. And that goes for the alternates as well. So I really appreciate that. Watch your social media use and the papers and the news. Stay away from all of that if you can this weekend. We'll see you Monday morning ready to start fresh. Thank you.
All right. right, let's bring in Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who is live outside of the courthouse. First of all, not surprising, the jury said, hey, we're ready to go home. It's been a long day. Tell us then, what is the mood at the courthouse?
Yeah, day one of verdict watch in the Karen Read murder retrial has officially wrapped up for the day after 1 hour, 47 minutes. I'm going to step out because there's huge crowds forming in front of the Dedham courthouse here. You see some of the media walking down over near the courthouse steps over here. You have a gaggle of media that's grown in numbers. It's probably tripled in size this past week. On the courthouse steps here across the street, you have supporters of Karen Read. They wrap around this building and down the street. I can see her cars just now getting in place for her exit. Let's actually listen to my interaction with her just a few moments ago. Are you going to be
verdict watch? What do you like to do?
Not much you can do but try to occupy your mind.
How do you feel that it's almost over?
Ready.
anything to say to your supporters?
Thank you. I love them.
What do you say to the supporters?
Doing that peace sign in sign language back to her supporters that they've been doing to her throughout this deliberation period, where the growing number of supporters are celebrating or at least supporting her in silence is what they're telling me as we wait for this verdict. Once again, this is a live picture of the courthouse doors. We expect Karen Read to be walking down any moment. You can see she's standing there with her attorneys. That's Alan Jackson. David Yanetti's walking down first, along with her other attorneys. I see Alessi over there. Karen's coming down the steps, and she's going to interact with the media. Let's see if we can turn to our other camera that's there on the ground. We also have Grace Wong, one of our producers. Let's try to listen in and see if she says anything.
Hey, Karen, how do you think things went today? Karen, how do you think things went today?
Very well. Very well.
Talk about the closings. How do you feel it went? I mean, from your side?
I don't think mine could have gone better.
And what do you want to
I'll
say?
say.
What does it feel like now that it's in the hands of the jury? What does it feel like? Can you just describe what that feels like?
I'm anxious. Ready. Just.
You said butterflies. I mean, it's been an hour and a half, 2 hours. Does that tell you anything, or how do you look at it?
Who knows?
Any message for this jury? I mean, they've heard all the evidence, and you've heard it all. What's your message to the jury?
I don't have one.
Nothing at all?
No,
What do you plan to do this week?
Just give her some room.
What do you plan to do this weekend?
I'm going to try to sleep. I don't know if that's possible.
Karen, any work that makes you feel confident that you can avoid a mistrial this time? Or is that here?
We've done everything we can. The instructions, the verdicts. You've seen us fighting for it.
Do you think it is a piece of evidence you can put in the jury to keep
What do you think about what the prosecutor said today? Do you have any comments on what Mr. Brennan said about what happened and using your words? Was he taking it out of context, did you say?
I have no comments. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. All right, Karen Read. We're moving on to the courthouse now. She's leaving, and we can play.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's about all of that I can watch. Stop! Oh, sorry. My dogs are out. I bet she's going home to drink, is what I wanted to say. I'll see you guys Monday morning early for verdict watch. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay safe. Don't smoke too much.